Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the December 12th, 2013 meeting of the Budget Committee. Our first agenda item is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is public input. Is there any member of the public that would like to offer input to the board?
You gotta pull the non-public
Non-public
sign off the door, yeah.
Hearing none. Oh, sorry.
Oh, time for public input.
We're still under public input. Would you like to
Actually, sure.
offer any?
I would love to. My notes. My mic? Well, that's good because I have a cold, so I'm trying not to me too.
Well, get close to both.
I'll stand over here. All right. Well, first I wanted to thank everybody here for all your time and sacrifices you put into doing this. Twice a week at night when you're going to be wrapping gift presents.
Can you state your name?
Terry Douglas, 9 Pheasant Street.
Thank you.
So, again, thank you for your time and effort in serving this community. It is a sacrifice, and I appreciate that. I also want to thank Dr. Cochran and whoever helped put together the budget. There seemed to be a lot more information this time around. Instead of seeing dozens of lists of equipment, there was actually an explanation as to what it was. And for somebody who doesn't have access to the budgets that are handed out, I found that very informative, and I really appreciated that. I wasn't able to attend Tuesday because it was my son's Christmas program, and I don't believe it was posted when I looked. So I don't have any questions or comments relative to Tuesday, but I was here Thursday last week, and I had a couple of comments there. And one of the things I'd like to encourage the school board to do is to use more warrant articles. One of the items that Dr. Cochran had mentioned was cutting the AP stats class. I would really like to see that as a warrant article if it's not in the base budget. And I understand why that's not in the base budget, but I think the voters should have the opportunity to say they support that. To me, one of the things that bother me about a school budget is when there are cuts, it seems like there's two factions that tend to be hit the most. It's the athletes and the kids in the AP or challenging courses. So I'd really like to see the voters have an opportunity to say that they want that. By not giving them the option, the kids are never going to have it. Let's see, what else did I have? I also agreed with the budget committee when they stood by saying that the lab assistant or tech teacher should be a warrant article. It is a significant change, and to argue that it would be a scaling back of a position and reclassifying it, to me, is, to put it politely, crazy. Because if for some reason we had a significant influx of students, that teacher can't be turned into a whatever class it was from, nor is it likely that the teacher teaching that grade is going to be the one responsible for the tech course. It's going to be a different person, clearly different responsibilities. The voters should have that option. I support it fully, and I would be a big champion of it, but I think it should be clearly before the voters. Similar situation with the lab. It's a big change for the school. It's a big investment. Once we have a big lab, you're going to have computer upgrades every 5 years at the most. You're going to have people have to staff that, have to, look for computer viruses and check the hard drives, make sure kids aren't installing things they shouldn't be. Voters should have the opportunity to say yay or nay. Again, I'm married to a computer engineer. I would be a huge champion of that. But I think the voters have the right to weigh in on that. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation where people find out we have a track that nobody was asked about. Let's see. And then I hope when we get to the point of tablets and laptops for students that that's going to be discussed thoroughly. There are, sure, a lot of pros, heck of a lot of cons, and I'd like to see the voters and the community have an opportunity to weigh in on that before it gets stuck in the budget. Those are my things. Again, thank you for your time and effort, and I'll be taking notes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have reviews and additions to the agenda. One item that we're going to add tonight is to revote the town budget items that we have. So that's an addition, and I don't know if there's any other additions from any of the members?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the review and acceptance of the minutes of December 5th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the 5th.
Second.
We have a motion and acceptance, motion and a second. Any revisions or additions?
I actually have a revision. It says Mr. Cutter called the meeting to order. It's actually Mr. Peebles.
Huh. No, that was Mr. Cutter, no. Any other revisions? All those in favor of the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Aye. Didn't get a chance to review them today. Moving onward and upward, we'll have the minutes of the 10th by next Tuesday?
Yes, you'll have both the 10th and the 12th by next Tuesday.
Wonderful. School business.
I don't think we have anything new. The board will discuss and vote next Wednesday after the teachers have voted about the contract. And imagine there'll be much discussion beginning of our meeting or whenever that process is. And we began reviewing warrant articles yesterday. We don't know if we're gonna vote them on the following Wednesday, so we may not vote them until past the first of the year. On that, just to let you know, because we're having a little bit of debate and other issues of what's going to be on the warrant articles. So other than that, I don't think there's anything else that came out of our meeting last night that was.
Be receiving some figure recommendation on the bus transportation and the increase to the water next week as well.
So,
I think that the board is we are looking to vote a bottom line increase on that next Wednesday, so that you guys will have that information for Thursday, whether you are able to vote on it or not. On that, I did let the board know that you're doing your meeting on the 16th of January.
so we're not gonna see the warrants until after the first of the year? It's getting on out there.
I don't think you are, because I mean, we're probably going to have to meet either the 2nd or 3rd or very early the following week ourselves as a board, because of just the timing of everything.
I have a question regarding the voting, obviously not getting into detail, more of the process of the teacher's contract. You said they have to vote, the school board has to vote. Dennis Bella the other night said there was a tentative agreement, so that's different from a vote.
Well, the negotiating teams have agreed to a contract, which means the teachers have to accept that negotiated contract. And if they do, then the school board will have to vote to also accept that
I
contract.
got you, so which means the teachers' union president, their attorney, and the school board reps kind of tentative
Well,
agreement.
the LEA's negotiating team,
Okay.
which is made up, the president's not part of that. They have a separate group of individuals that negotiated that.
Okay.
And then, depending on how the vote goes, it'll either move to the voters, or it could move to fact-finding,
Okay.
depending on the vote.
Okay. That's gonna put us right out there on the hairy edge. Any more input on the warrant articles? Is there anything else you have, John?
Not,
Okay, wonderful. Then I guess move right on to voting. We're going to vote GMS in place of CHS. And before the meeting, I asked Frank to keep a set of numbers and Cindy as well, so that we could make sure that we're on the bottom line. I said I would try desperately to do a better job at running this meeting tonight than I did on Tuesday. I apologize to everybody for that. Okay, so John, do you have a bottom line, or do you have a bottom line number you'd like to
I
vote?
believe I have a bottom line of $470,608.
Second.
Oh.
Give it to Chris.
Wow. Okay, 470, 608. A motion and a second. We go through this like we have the other budgets,
Page by
one
page.
page at a time?
Yep.
Comments and additions, subtractions on page 1? Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11.
Yeah, I have one on page 11, as I promised. Under GMS School Administration, account 430, I'd move that from $150 to $1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion?
That's the one we discussed when we reviewed the budget, that don't seem to spend any money in the account, so I don't know why you even have any money there. Just to clean up, that's all.
Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor of removing $150 from?
No,
line
149.
149,
I'm sorry, $149 from line 430.
unless they want zero, I don't care.
Pardon?
Unless you want zero, whichever is easiest.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Abstained. Motion carried. Okay. Page 12. Page 13.
I got a couple on that. What percent increase are you gonna be using for the water, Frank? How much?
12.2.
On account number 430, repairs and maintenance, I'd move that from 87,598.76 to 82,598.76. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Yes, it does, yeah.
Minus.
And that is removing the $5,000 for the possible sewage pump that are 12 years old.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion?
That would, I see that as, since it's not indefinite, it can be part of the capital reserve fund if necessary. That, to me, fits into a perfect description of what we would use that fund for.
And I think that's the discussion we had when we reviewed the budget.
Right. Since it's an unknown and could, but may not, maybe happen.
Further discussion on the motion?
Can I just ask, because I missed that meeting, what is the rationale for budgeting that?
It's simply the age that the director of the facility was concerned about, just the age of the pump.
Just the age, has it had any failures? Has it?
I'm not aware.
Switch failure, there was a failure on a switch or a relay or something?
Yeah, relay, not the pump.
On a contactor?
From my experience with the ones that I deal with, the properties I handle, the most common thing that goes are the floats. The switch is very inexpensive repairs, fall into normal maintenance. If the entire thing does go, that is an accurate cost. Those things could last near forever, or they could go tomorrow, just about like anything else out there. So that's why, in my mind, that is a perfect description. Instead of, adding this to the budget every year, wondering if it's going to go, that's a perfect description for the reserve fund.
And so the life expectancy is anywhere from tomorrow to forever?
Those motors, forever stretching it, but I was.
I know how old my
Over
water,
embellishing,
I know
but-
how old my water
Yeah,
pump is.
Don't
but
say anything.
But those motors, those motors,
Right.
they do go, they're workhorses.
It was a float switch a year ago, August, it was just a few $100s,
Yeah.
I believe, at that point in time.
It's the components on it, the floats, the certain things, but the motor, like I
long as the
said,
insulation's
I don't
good,
want
the
to
motor's
jinx
gonna
it,
run.
but,
Yeah.
motors from the 50s are still running, so.
Well, I know that the school is going to ask to replenish their maintenance
reserve,
capital reserve in the next warrant, as a warrant article.
yeah.
I heard you talking about that
Yeah, I
last
think
night.
the wording wasn't 100% correct, so I think they're working on that. So that is going to be a request.
Okay, further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of reducing account 430, repair and maintenance to a new bottom line of 82,598.75, say aye.
Aye.
76,
All right.
Abstain. Okay. Any further adjustments on page 13?
I have a question. There's, on 610, supplies, it says you have an increase of 6.2% over last year's requested rate, but your attendance is gonna be down 9%. Could the same number be logistically carried instead of an increase of $1,430?
Well, a decrease of 9% of schools does not equate to what it takes to maintain a school. We did not decrease the school by 9%, we just decreased the population. Doesn't mean that
Well, it's
the
less.
same population is going to use the same square footage, and the same square footage is going to need to be maintained.
It's, the supplies though, what custodial supplies? I'm thinking bathrooms, hand towels, toilet paper.
It's all those things, but I don't think the abundance of the thing is hand towels and toilet paper. It's the maintaining, the cleaning of the schools,
Your floors, okay.
floors and all your windows and all your things like that.
My understanding, based on Principal Thompson's response to the same question earlier, was that the majority of it is cleaning supplies, and as Mr. York points out, that's determined by square footage. Now, in theory, because there are fewer students, you might not have to strip and wax quite as often, but the reality is that it really doesn't impact that much, because it is a square footage by and large that's the driver.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. Moving on, any further changes to page 13? Hearing none. Page 14.
I would move line 622, utilities, electric, from 56,009.88 to $45,518.
Second.
And all I did was put what I believe is the correct number in for the Smart Start program payments. That number, rather than 14,268, should be $3,777, because we already paid off the the major piece of that contract. There were two contracts.
I have,
Numbers-
will not argue that
No,
point
numbers
with you.
good. I also suspect the other piece is high, but I just saw the numbers today.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was your new bottom line number?
The new number was $45,518.
518.
Does anybody know what that reduction was?
10,491.88.
10,491.88.
Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the reduction to $45,518, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained. Motion carries. Page 15.
I would move on page 15, account 625, bottled gas, from $5,253.80 to $3,500.
Can you say that again? You mean account 623, right?
623, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Propane gas,
Okay, and what was your new number?
3,500. And, was that a second?
Oh, second.
Didn't mean to look at you, Pat.
That's why I should have done it. Something slipped.
The problem with the numbers they had been using for usage gets clouded because they had a couple of other portable at Griffin. They're gone now. In the last 2 years, we just had the double kindergarten building. And the first year, we only had the single one. We used 2,033 gallons. Last year, we used 1,340 gallons. So I just took the average of the two, which is 1687, and I used the number they had here as $7.58, and that came up to $3,498, which I rounded up to $3,500.
Further discussion on the motion?
I'm just wondering what the difference is.
1753.80.
It's good, Cindy, you beat me to it, that's perfect. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, a new bottom line number of $3,500 for account number 623, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained. Motion carries.
Line 4, same page, 430 repairs and maintenance. I'd like to, the power sweeping line, take it from 1,200 down to 500. That's a reduction of $700.
That was on page 15?
You can make me do the subtraction.
50. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. You got to do the thing from the whole number, right?
602.
So 16,302 minus,
15,602, right?
is that it? Yeah, 15,602.
Yep.
So I'd like to take line 430 from $16,302 to $15,602, which is off of the line, power sweeping line.
Second.
Same justification as the other ones, $500 each school, $125 an hour to sweep once a year, 4-hour minimum, which is more than enough, in my opinion.
Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of a new bottom line number for 430 power sweeping, $500, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We were voting on the 15,602.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm keeping track of it, not in the aggregate. 16,000, what is it?
15,602 would be the new number of approved.
15,602.
No, that's not right.
We reduced it by, you said
$700.
$700.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
My
right,
my
sorry.
math works.
I thought it was actually too low, but no, that's right. Okay.
So 15,602 is what I have.
So we need a motion to approve
Wait,
that number.
We need,
Need to just vote on it again, because you voted on $500.
oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor, new bottom line number of 15,602, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained. Motion carries.
I didn't give me a chance to say aye. You just figuring it in.
Screw me up by going to the bottom line.
I'd like to make a reduction.
Page 15?
Also to line 430 of $10,000 for a new bottom line of 5602.
Second.
And that's for the swales to divert groundwater. There's significant engineering studies that the swale actually does divert surface water, but does not affect the groundwater. And the issue with the GMS is the groundwater being too close to the slab. So while I know that's one of those things that will make everybody feel good, it's actually a waste of money, and I would rather see that type of money go towards like a dehumidification system or one of the other recommendations that the engineering studies recommended to help.
Anybody that knows me here knows I'll second anything if nobody else does, because I just think if somebody felt it important enough to make a motion, it's important enough to have a conversation about it.
So did you second that?
I did.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't agree, you can tell.
But I don't agree. I don't agree. I'm no engineer. Cindy is correct. I mean, swales remove surface water, and there is a groundwater problem there. And surface water ultimately turns into groundwater. It's a tricky situation. It's tough. I was on a little bit of the building committee when this was being discussed 5 or 6 years ago. I guess it seems like forever. So I am not for taking that money out. I would leave it in there, because anything to maintain our current assets, like I said, I'm just happy we're not talking about building a new school right now. So I think it's important, but, and back to what Cindy said about dehumidification, if the money's in there, and maybe if another opinion could be reached, and if better use of that $10,000 can go toward dehumidification instead of cleaning out the swales, then whatever it takes to make that situation better. I just think it's important. But, you know, heavy rains and water coming off the roof, they go somewhere, and they go on the ground, and you just need to move it as far away as possible. And like I said, I'm no engineer, so I'm not speaking from any, but I have spoken with people that say it could be a help.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Chris.
I agree that it would assist in some runoff, and hopefully it's not $10,000, and you still have $2,000 left to make that school better and remedy any water problems.
I was just going to ask one question. Was that based on a firm quote? Do you plan on going out to bid on that? Where'd the number come for $10,000? I don't think we covered that in the beginning.
It's less than needed, and we'll get as much work done as we can for the amount, basically. For the swale on the south side, that was a proposal.
See, I kind of agree with Cindy in a lot of that, because there was significant studies done. And I think I shared with you, I stood down there right after the storm event we've ever had in the town of Litchfield, when the water was up to 3A, and there was nothing in the swale. But it does need to be cleaned out, so it's kind of, I go
think-
both directions on this
Yeah,
one.
I mean, look, they are different. Groundwater is different than surface water. I do agree also with Cindy on that. So I'm saying anything could help, but Cindy makes a good point also. If it needs to be, if there's a better way to keep water out of that school with the same money, it's important the money's in there, and we're making progress towards doing something, whether it be the swales or dehumidification. But I think we all agree some movement toward solving some of the water issue needs to be taken care of.
And
It's an under drain.
I agree that some money towards this system, as I said, would be a better use of it, but I don't want to just throw $10,000 out there and say, that might happen, we hope that happens. I'd rather see a proposal so that I know the $10,000, or whatever the right figure is being spent appropriately. I think the swales do need to be maintained, but I know we have a lot of members of the community that have large equipment that can go in there and maybe we solicit help from them to clear out the swales with the, the backhoes and the what have you, first, before we spend some money, because I know we do have a lot of community-minded people out there that might be willing to help us out there.
I
That's a lot,
absolutely
too.
agree with that fact, I think that's why the building committee that you guys just started, because there are a lot of people in this town that are more than willing to donate equipment and time to help.
That being said.
Well, 3
you still
days'
have-
work.
You still have the engineering costs to do that work. You have wetlands permits that you need to acquire, right? And you need to, if you dig out that swale, you're gonna need to stabilize it somehow, so you're gonna need to put some rock or something back in it to.
Fabric and some riprap.
You're gonna need to stabilize it somehow, so actually 10,000 doesn't seem like near enough to do that project. Now that I look at that number.
And that's my concern, it's nice to throw a number out there, but I'm not sure that we've got the data to back it up.
Seems like that might be a better warrant article and have some solid engineering behind it. Any further discussion on the motion?
Well, the school's position is that we are trying very hard to improve GMS, because that's the will of the voters here. And we did have conversation on this. We do believe it's enough. We do believe that it'll probably be a process where we will try to ask for help from the town folks, but it's our budget. And it's one of the things that Dr. Cochran said, I have to start somewhere and I have to start doing things. And this is where I believe we should start at GMS. And while I believe the Budget Committee has every ability to take the $10,000 out, but again, you're just pushing off another year, because inevitably, GMS, that area, needs to get done. It's not going to get any cheaper tomorrow than it is today. And we're going to try very hard to get as much done with as much community involvement as we can. But we have to have something there that says we can start. If it gets removed, then we will move along away from that project. We will allow it to live as it is for another year. And we will bring it back to the Budget Committee next year, because the school board is committed that we're going to move projects for the maintaining of GMS in our operating budget. That's where the school board stands today. We hope that the Budget Committee will support that. And maybe at some point in time, the new building committee group that is going to advise us will come with more of a detailed plan. We do know that their focus is going to be on the GMS first, but we can't just wait for them to get their processes up and going. We have to continue the process of maintaining and improving GMS. So that's where the school board stands.
I mean, the swales were built for a reason.
And they are overgrown right now, so how much of a help will it be, I don't know, but a swale is not supposed to look like they look right now.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of moving account 430, moving the line for removing the $10,000 to divert the groundwater from account number 430, please say aye.
So it'll be
The
New bottom line of,
$5,602.
50, yeah. How much, Cindy?
$5,602.
Right.
all those in favor of new bottom line of $5,602, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
Motion fails. Okay, we're back to a new bottom line number of 15,602. Any further reductions, comments?
Yes, comment on item 430 still. Catch basins, catch basin cleanout, $1,100. I'm gonna guess there's probably no more than 6 or 8 catch basins in that whole parking lot area. guessing.
Guessing I could
Should've
go with you, I
looked,
don't know the
just-
number that's there.
It sounds like an awful lot. I know how much the town pays for them, and I don't know if it's the same contractor that does it for the schools. Wish I knew how many were there.
I don't know, I don't know if they do it every year or what the process has been on that.
I don't know either.
But I know it's something, again, that,
I know it needs to be done. It's an every year, every 2-year thing for sure. I mean, my fault. I don't know how many are there.
I don't know what.
I don't wanna-
I mean, without going, I didn't go out.
Were they done last year? Were the schools done
I don't know
last
if
year?
I don't know if the new parking lot added some or to it or not when we
No.
did that, so.
No, you didn't add, you just,
There's not many.
What's in the budget for the
it's a
town?
catch basin, 430. It's, the
What was
catch
the
basin.
budget? Do you have for last year? Do you know what was budgeted for last year?
No.
Catch basin cleanouts for the town, we have budgeted, a revised number is $12,000. And that does half. Catch
There's
basin?
110 of them.
Right, okay.
About $100 a piece.
Yeah, it's about 100. Yes.
Well, don't make it long.
I don't know how many are there. It's kind of, I don't want to just stab something, but I
don't know
will,
if there's there either.
I don't know either.
I'll watch out for that next year. Next year, they shouldn't be in there. Get them clean this year.
I'll be honest with
We'll
you.
cover them after we clean them this year.
I don't know that there's more than a couple, because there's no.
Can't be
under-
more than
there's
6
no
or
under-
8.
The part of the problem at GMS is the site water, and there is no underground drainage.
Yeah, realistically,
I don't think there's
I
any
think
there
catch
would,
basins
there
down
would
there.
only be a couple.
There's a
There's
couple.
like, I think there's two.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one right where the 1930s building, and then there's that little park paved area.
I could
between the
honestly
main
say cut it
building.
in half. I'm gonna make a motion to cut that in half to 550.
Second.
We have a motion and a second? And what's that bring our bottom line number down to?
And I didn't catch that on the other schools either, but I'm sure they'll be covered.
The new bottom line number, we have a motion and a second for discussion on the motion?
Yeah, what's the, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, cutting it in half, just for the sake of cutting it in half without any details around it, doesn't seem right. You're unsure whether or not 1,100 is the right dollars, you don't know if $500 is the right dollars. I agree, it's about 100, 110 bucks of catch basin, but what else are they getting done for that same service? I don't know if they're doing anything else under the catch basin mains line or not. It just feels like you're doing it because you feel like you have to cut it, and I'm just, if you came in and said there's 6 catch basins, it's, it's $100 a piece, and we use the $600, that's a sound decision, but you're doing it just to do it. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, except his rationale of looking at what the town is paying to have it done as compared to what this is
There
dramatically.
can't be more than 6 or 8 there, and it's covered.
John, I agree, in some cases, just for the sake of cutting, is irrational, but when there's some ration behind it, catch basins, I think that the town had come in last year, said you want to try and do it every year with the default, and you push some off. I mean, the towns, you can go every couple of years. In a parking lot, you could even go longer. Parking lots, you could actually go every 3-4 years, because it doesn't get the runoff like rain and the road
I'm
stuff,
not
so.
saying, yeah, and I'm
so-
not saying it's not a bad idea, I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
So,
Process.
the process is, they came and asked for the money because that's what they believe it's gonna cost to do what they do, they have a reason for asking it, and we're making a cut without having any background on why we're cutting, that's all. It feels wrong.
I agree, it's a different process than normal, but I don't think it's as random or as arbitrary as.
Well, do we have any three-year data on that line?
No, I just want to see what was in last year's budget, whether this is just a number that shows up each year.
If that's the case, then I would withdraw my statement and say, okay, it's a fact.
And that's what it was also with the power sweeper, it's always the same number, I know it's the past few
Why?
years, just always was the same.
Like, I agree with power sweeping for like the 2 smaller schools, I didn't agree with the reduction with the 10 high schools. It just seemed like there's more there and it probably doesn't.
Where were we? This is 2630.
Make sure you beat your guy up good so we get a good deal. Just make sure you beat your sweeper up good so we get a good deal.
Are you using our sweeper?
I'm sorry, John, I couldn't hear.
He's whispering.
I'm whispering to make sure he gets a good deal for the town so we can use his sweeper.
2630, let's see, and what's the account?
430.
430. Post fence, field, tree removal, parking lot, catch basin cleanouts, $1,100.
Yeah.
It's just a continuous number. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, new bottom line number, $15,102. Is that correct, Cindy? 15,101 or 102?
15,052.
Oh,
It was a
fif-
reduction of 550, right?
Yes.
50, sorry.
52?
15,152.
No.
52.
052, yep.
$15,052. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right?
Motion carries.
Thank you. Justifying that for me.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Any more comments on page 15? Page 16. Page 17?
Yeah, line 519, transportation, co-curricular transportation. I moved from $16,047.40 to $1,480.
A second, but, yeah, 1,647.40.
I moved from 1,647.40 to 1,480.
Gotcha.
And that's just the same percent reduction we took when we did the other two schools on transportation, so.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion?
What was that reduction amount?
$167.40.
But here we go with the cents again.
I know.
I don't understand why our numbers just don't round to a zero, so we don't have to deal with the pennies.
It's a down there.
Yes, round down, remember.
My philosophy, round up.
Counting systems don't allow you to round down. At least ours.
Neither does ours. I think it rounds up.
Right.
It's in the formatting, isn't it? No?
Zero one's closer to the next dollar than the other dollar.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor of $1,480 for line 519, co-curricular, or transportation? Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Abstained.
Well, now you need a new bottom line.
Cindy already has it.
Well, I'll double check my numbers.
Gotta get rid of all this change.
I know.
Okay. So. Looks like the total reduction so far has been for the whole budget, GMS has been $20,124.68.
Cindy has 18,81208.
That's what I heard.
I'm spying on
Yeah.
it.
18,81208.08.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Yep.
So we have a discrepancy here. We had a reduction of 150. or
149.
149.
149. We have reduction of, down to 82,598.75, which was a reduction of 5,000.
5,000, yeah.
We have a reduction, 56,000, $56,009.88 down to 45,001.
45,518, yep.
Yep.
Reduction of 10,491.88.
Yep.
That was on the utility electric.
Yep,
And then propane, a reduction of 1753.80.
yep,
Sweeping reduction 700. Catch basin, a reduction of 550, and the co-curricular transportations was a reduction of $167.40.
yep. This is a total of 18,812.08 in reductions.
So, bottom line is,
$451,795.92.
Yeah, I'm using the same spreadsheet you are. Why isn't it coming out the same?
Is that the number you have?
My tutorial rates, I'll be posting those later on.
Yeah,
Because I'm using the same spreadsheet, and I've got 451,795.92.
So let's run down the amount of change one more time.
If you're-
149,
Yep.
If you're,
5,000,
Yep,
10,491.88,
yep,
1753.80,
yep,
700,
yep,
550,
yep.
1480.
No,
oh, once,
167.40.
There's
it's 21488, that changes 16740.
51,795.
That's what-
You can either put the number of the change in the from column, or you
I
can
did.
do the from to.
Sorry.
That's all right.
No typo. I'm like, why is that not right? I'm writing
Well,
down.
my spreadsheet wasn't working.
No, I was convinced it did work. I was thought maybe we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, new bottom line number. $451,795.92.
Yep.
All those, do we have a motion? I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor of the new bottom line, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries. Okay. Well, that takes care of our voting on GMS.
you did it again. Now we gotta do salaries.
Yeah, I did it again. I'm sorry.
We'll move a bottom line salaries and benefits budget for GMS of $3,080,837.
Second.
Motion and second? Discussion on the motion.
Yeah.
Page 1.
You gonna do it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to reduce the computer lab teacher half-time
$23,007.
of $23,765.31, but, and then there's obviously whatever's associated goes with it, but I guess that's a different line, right?
Just doing that line,
Okay.
and that would make,
It's to $937,558.
second,
What's the new number?
$937,558.
Any cents?
31 cents.
31 cents. Didn't write that, you got me in trouble.
well, actually, no. We-
No,
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 we took the
that's
31
right,
cents out.
31
31
cents
cents is
Sorry.
out. 31 cents is out.
All right.
Would not get the pictures, that's right.
Okay, discussion on the motion.
I mean, this thing was discussed to death, actually numerous times, but I just want to jump the gun and say if it, school board decides to bring it to a warrant, I would vote to recommend it, based upon what I already learned. So, but that doesn't have anything to do with my reduction right now, so I want to keep it on that, and it's for the 2003, 2004 warrant is what I'm referring to.
And what's just a quick thumbnail of why this position is being requested?
The students at GMS have to be able to use a keypad and a mouse to be able to take the new assessments that are coming their way. And we're going to be putting a lab in that school so we can begin teaching the students how to be able to use computers at a much earlier age so they're able to take the assessments. And the school board voted to reduce a position and then voted to add a position based on the fact that the need for this learning process for our youngest students, based on the learning direction in the school, is necessary. And since we're putting a lab in the school, we believe there should be somebody with the background and experience to be able to run that lab.
So there's a reduction of one staff member and then backing in another half-time member. What happens if the kids aren't able to, don't have the skills to take these tests?
Then we will perform poorly.
And have no idea why.
I believe 98% of the teachers can probably move what they're trying to teach a
Well-
first, second, third grader.
But we're
the
having
basics
them.
of a computer.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because we have our teachers concentrating on reading, writing, and arithmetic, and science and history, which, while those things are much more important for them and what we want them teaching. We're not looking for our teachers to become computer specialists for our younger students. Now,
They don't have
we
to
do
be a
have-
computer specialist for a
I-
first through fourth grade introduction to computers. I mean,
I understand, but whatever time we take away from the teachers to teach the computer skills takes away from reading, writing, arithmetic, and science education, which is not something the school board wants to do.
So, the budget, just to make sure that we understand where we're at with that, the budget committee can move a budget up or down, but we really can't dictate to the schools how or what they teach. So really, the issue is that this is being considered, I think, Chris, a new position. You consider it a new position, I think we all do. We should have had a natural attrition that would have happened, and the school board has acted to add a position back into the budget where the
Yeah,
attrition would happen.
I mean, the school board and the administration acted responsibly. They did not need a second grade teacher based upon enrollment. So they riffed the position, and this is creating a new position. I know, like anything else, there's 101 ways to interpret something. And usually the interpretation is backed in based upon what a belief is, and then it's justified. I'm looking at right now at the 2003 and 2004 warrant, and I don't see it fitting in to that. This is a new position. Yes, one was taken away, but one is also being added. Again, somebody could say, well, let's not call it that. Let's call it we're moving a position over and cutting it back a little bit. But again, that's a stretch. There was also a question asked of, to reaffirm at last year's candidates night, and a couple members in here, and reaffirmed,
3 members, actually.
3 members, Ms. Kuchar, Mr. Valencourt, and Mr. Bork, reaffirmed that they would, any new position, they would allow to go out to warrant. It allows for greater community involvement. My opinion, it's an easy sell. I think what we saw up on the screen last week should be shown, and I think this is an easy sell for the community. I already said I would recommend it, and I can't speak for anybody else here, but it does look like it's a needed position. That's my rationale.
And the only other thing I would add is that, what Chris said, I would echo, so I'm not going to repeat that. But it was also my understanding, even the school board was divided as to whether or not this is a new position or not. So it's not clear how people want to interpret it. personally, I see it as a new position. It's independent of the fact that we had to reduce other teachers. They're two different issues completely. And I agree also, I would support it as a warrant, but that's your choice. If you choose not to go to warrant, it wouldn't surprise me to see you put it in the budget anyways, and then we'll talk about it next year, just like we'll do on one of the other ones that we'll be discussing.
I also echo the same sentiments as Chris.
I have it here under mine when we discussed it the first time as, I put progress down, but you gotta do it the right way. I would strongly encourage computers to kids starting right off the bat, but you gotta do it the right way.
Yeah, I think this is a position that can be justified, but in looking at the other warrant article, which talks about meeting minimum state and federal standards or maintaining current services, I don't see how this fits into that definition. So I do think it's something that needs to go forward, but it doesn't meet the definition of being in the budget.
The hard part is you're cutting $35,000 or so, $40,000, but still, it's gotta be done the right way.
The consensus so far, at least the way I can see it, is that this would be wholeheartedly supported by the, as a warrant, but again, might be jumping the gun.
Chris, just to make sure I get your numbers right. So we're going from 75,641.28 to, just want to make sure I capture that tonight.
We're going from...
What's your reduction?
The reduction was 23,765
31.
and 31 cents.
735?
765 and 31 cents.
31 cents.
To bring now that line, 110 salaries, down to $937,558 even.
Frank, to expedite this quickly, do you know what all the other numbers are that associate with that
I
position?
was just going to say, the
I
only
don't
two
think they
numbers
changed.
that are in the federal withholding on Social Security and Medicare. And looking at it, it doesn't appear that it was included.
It wasn't.
So I would suggest humbly suggest to the Budget Committee that there be no other changes associated with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Ray?
Okay, any further, I'm sorry, Dr. Cochran.
I just want to thank the members for their support of the position. I understand your process objection, and I look forward to making space for you at the microphone at deliberative. Thank you.
I got that screwed up. I've been trying very diligently to keep track of these numbers tonight. And so I'm gonna go back to, this line was 75,641.28. I'm gonna take out 23,765.
75,000 doesn't sound right, Ray. I don't know what line you're looking at. The number was 961, 323, 31.
I'm looking down below, John, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well done.
Oh, I see what you were looking at. Okay, now I understand, yeah. Went up above there.
That may be creating all your math errors over there.
My multitasking isn't as good as it should be. Okay.
Excuse me, please.
What was your new bottom line number, Chris?
937,558
937.
even,
558,
no cents.
no cents. Okay, perfect. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Abstained. Motion carries.
Dr. Cochran, I'm never shy at deliberative, or at any time, to stand up and either speak for or against something that I believe in. So if I'm allowed the opportunity or invited, I'd be more than happy to get up. And it's even more than just this position for me, because I would be happy to stand up there and let the people know that the process that they voted in 10 years ago by way of a petition warrant article overwhelmingly approved is now, we are moving toward changing the way we used to do things toward the way they want us to do things. So I would be happy to do that.
I think we all would. Okay, moving onward and upward. Any further reductions or comments on page 1? Page 2. I had a note here about the Social Security,
They didn't change, okay? They weren't reflected.
Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Hearing no other changes, that gives us a bottom line of $3,057,071.69.
Yep.
I'll make a motion for that bottom line.
305707169.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of $3,057,071.69 for GMS salaries and benefits, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain. Motion carries. Now we're done. One thing you have to admit, I'm consistent.
Ray, I thought we would have been done an hour ago.
I'm sorry.
Not just you, it's all of us.
We're going to technology, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I might as well just sit back. No.
Oh, we might go fast on that one.
Okay. Just to make sure that we're, right after we do the technology, we're gonna do the salaries and benefits for that.
It's only one page, we
Yes,
should be
yeah.
good, okay on that one.
That one you'll remember, the one page.
Oh, my God. Okay, page 1.
I'll move the bottom line technology operating budget of $424,834.
Second.
A motion and a second. Additions, changes, comments on page 1? Page 2.
Back on page 1 for just, no, never mind. Never mind.
Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7.
Yeah, again, I guess I just want to point out to make sure we're all on the same page, that what we just gone through is that we are recommending the hardware associated with the computer lab, but not the teacher. And what I heard when we discussed this was, as long as they had the lab set up, they would figure out some way or other to get it to work, whether they had that position or not.
Right.
And I have no problem supporting, setting up the lab itself.
Well, it sounds like they're going to need it to, even for the kids to take the tests.
You should know that we did have a conversation on technology, and we have tasked the administration to come up with a 3-year plan that is
Would
level
be nice
funded
if-
across 3 years,
Would be
so
nice.
that next year when we come, we can say, this is the plan, and this is what we should expect for technology over the next 3 years. There will be some discussions of exactly how that should look as we begin to decide how to move and change the district to portable process or not for the students and things. So that is something that they will be getting back to the school board sometime in the March, April timeframe. So we can have a discussion with the budget committee when the school board has approved that, so.
You know,
we have
ideally,
taken that.
if you could spread it, whatever you want to do with a 3-year plan, if you could spread the cost fairly uniformly, it would.
That
go
was the
a lot.
goal, was to come back so that we have something that's not doing this.
Right.
Okay.
And 100,000 a year is perfectly satisfactory.
What was that? Well, I told him you chose 200, and I told him I recommended 400, so I thought maybe there was room for negotiating in there.
I'll take 100,000.
And just to comment on all that, John, to be honest with you, last year, both John and I made a bunch of comments regarding technology with Kyle. He's really taken those to heart and brought a lot of them into this technology plan that, even though it's not a plan, you can see his process right here. He's doing the virtual servers and desktops. They'll support 90 users. So there's some forward thinking in
On
there.
what?
That, you know, we asked him that particular question last week.
Is that the lab you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's
It-
They're going to have a single room set up.
You're on your way to release yourself from all this desktop hardware and stuff and move to
What
the
did
thin
that do in
clients,
that
which would
room
be
last year?
a lot easier for you to maintain all the way all around.
You got to ask them.
And I think that's
Just
where,
my-
I really
I
say
think
away
that's
from
where
it.
the school board wants to be.
I think that's where everybody's headed, for all the obvious reasons. So we're at a bottom line of technology, $4,024,834.
No.
$424,834. If you want to add 4 million to it, Ray, we will accept it.
Actually,
Will we accept that over there? Yeah, we will accept that. We'll accept $4
I'm
million
sorry,
extra.
$424,834.
Aye.
Any further motions, comments?
I don't know.
Dan?
I don't know enough what went on here last year to ask some of the questions, but next year, maybe I'll see what it looks like it compares to. All right, question. Last year, it says here you spent $321,186. Do you have all this same stuff that's in this proposal now, new desks and computers and, you know,
No.
that's why I
I
don't,
mean, we don't have the detail of what was spent last year,
Right.
because there were other initiatives last year, and as Mr. York said, every year brings a new initiative, basically, because you have a tech plan. That last year, I know, for instance, we did a lot of work at LMS with a computer lab, so there's different things that go on.
I like the
I don't have the
technology, I
detail here
mean, but I don't,
for you, so comparatively, I can't tell you how much and where we spent it.
And the reality is, we spent a couple of years really trying to invest back into server infrastructure and wireless infrastructure. This last year really was been an expansion, and the first thin client lab at LMS, and now one more at GMS. We anticipate, for example, at the high school this year, we had 4 labs on a 3-year lease that expired. If we felt that we needed to refurbish all 4 of them, we would have rolled over all 4, but quite honestly, 2 of the labs are general usage labs. We don't need to, we're not gonna redo those. 2 of them are fairly high-end labs, and they need greater capacity at this point in time. So what we're trying to do is manage the environment. For example, we're not gonna need that many more thin client setups, because by the time this thin client, 3 or 4 years out, we'll be using thin client, and we may be using it less for student computing, but it may, instead of having to purchase new computers for office, for teacher staff, then we'll be able to roll that over and invest that same amount of money into the student machines. So it's phasing that growth in a way, and we talked at the board meeting last night about the need for a 3-year plan, and I told the board that I would try to get, Kyle and I will try to get a group up and running and have that 3-year plan by the end of March. But it really does, I mean, what is the phase of that? You know, I mean, thin client is a great way to get relatively low maintenance costs, relatively powerful computing to a location, but you only need so much of it. More of it isn't necessarily better because you need a different function. So what, you know, what does the model look like? So that's where we invested. It's been quite different this year. As Mr. Markowitz points out, the thin client that we model that we did this year at LMS will move to GMS. So that will replace a class set of laptops and also 3 computers in every one of 20 elementary classrooms. And by the time you look at the cost of the server and divide it by the number of thin clients it create and the length of time, because you're now looking at a serviceable life with fairly low costs of 5 to 6 years, Ray, instead of 3 to 4 for a normal machine, then it starts to bring you the economy of scale that will hopefully allow you to move forward and at the same time keep a flat cost of ownership. The model that we've discussed really at some point in moving to one-on-one computing is the expectation of a 3-year life cycle for a machine that you buy for a student. And so if we gave students in grade 4, for example, a $400 machine, and there's on average 120 that we buy in a year because we allow for some breakage, that would be $48,000 a year. The next year it would be another $48,000, and so that, you know, we have spent what we said we would this year, but the pattern is going to change significantly over time. But what we're looking at down the road really is that model of, and if we have a machine for a student that goes grades 4, 5, 6, we don't have to buy 3 years at a time. We buy 1 year at a time at the end of 3 years. And so every class of grade 4 is moving up would get, for example, I'd love to think that in 3 years we could buy a more than sufficient device for $400 a student in grade 4 and $500 at grade 7 and $600 at grade 9 or grade 10. 3-year life, you know, I'd love to see the cost of that down to $150,000 a year. And then all of the other lab infrastructure for students pretty much goes away, except for a couple of specialized labs at the high school. So, you know, then you're maintaining the infrastructure of the server system, the wireless system. And I'm sure I'll have plenty of advice from some people in this room about how much sense my plan, or our plan, makes when we bring it forward. And I look forward to that, by the way.
I'm not going to offer any. Maybe John.
Well, I'm all for technology. I'm just leery of the younger kids and how much you get to them, because we, you know, I hope everybody learns from it.
Well, the biggest key we have is that by 3rd grade, they have to be
Oh, and I want them to,
computer
believe me.
literate.
I wish I had that opportunity, and I'm all for technology. I just make sure it's spent wisely and right, and.
It has to be different than a 3DS or Kindle or iPad-driven devices. So.
Thank you for answering my question.
I'll be honest with you, John, I'm not sure that it can't be one of those kind of things, but you need to, the one thing that's missing still that I didn't see anywhere in the budget is any mobile device management for any of the iPads or the mobile infrastructure. And I'll be honest with you, that is a prerequisite at some point for you guys. But that was just a general comment on the sidebar. But that being said, is there any further questions, discussion around technology? Reductions? Like I said, what I see here makes sense for what Kyle's up to. I think he listened to us last year and bring a plan that's viable for the coming years without losing the initial capital. The fact that he's doing VDI will allow that capital to exist a little longer.
So did we vote the bottom line?
Not
Nope.
yet.
I sort of got lost here.
I was gonna say, so we have a new bottom line number of
Same bottom line number.
$424,834.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Hey, I told the budget committee, out of the school board, I got to say yes 3 times last time I was here and voted, so I'm very proud, very happy.
Excellent.
Even Dennis said he got to vote yes on the other night.
By the way, I would compliment Dennis on his performance at the meeting. I thought he was excellent. Contributed very nicely to the conversation and the discussion.
We'll try to recruit him back next year.
Yeah, it would be nice.
We'll move a salaries and benefits for technology of bottom line of $170,540.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion on page 1.
Quick update in terms of the names. Mr. Power is no longer with us as of last week. Brian Anker, who's a student at NHTI, was able to move from a part-time to full-time position. Mr. Power left a couple of months ago. So the salaries are correct, but Brian Anker, who was our summer intern, is now our tech coordinator, and the person that we hire for our summer intern will be unknown. So, just in case you're wondering.
So is that at the same salaries for, I mean, are we gonna have a reduction in salary in there?
I'm sorry?
No.
No.
No, Mr. Power was a first year in that position as well, so that there wasn't any real change.
Any further discussion then?
So nothing's been spent year-to-date on that 6720,
I'm sorry?
that intern money now?
The expectation, we do a lot of work over the,
It's
over
a
the
summer
summer.
position.
So it's a summer position that does a lot of the grunt work. Internships in technology are in a fair amount of demand, and actually virtually all of them are paid. We're fortunate to get Brian this summer. I think Ray can attest the amount of work that goes on in technology. It's one of the few times of the year that you have access to the building for an extended period of time if you're running wire and cable, or if you're, doing some of the other stuff. It's probably their busiest time of the year. So if our 2 more technical people are working with servers, they still need somebody to image machines and do stuff that's fairly labor intensive, but not, you don't need extremely high levels of technical skill. So it's a better use of time and money in some ways, instead of paying overtime to our person at $43,000.
I had just one question. Is the health insurance just on the one employee?
No.
Should on 2 of them.
They're both health insurance eligible.
Okay.
I can't
So,
disclose more than that.
okay, and you know what those 2, they both have for health insurance now, so that's what you're reflecting here, I assume.
Correct.
No, that's not
Well,
true.
it would
That's not
reflect
true.
who was there before.
Yes,
Right.
that's right. Power left and Hagan comes on, and they may or may not have the same health care, correct?
Correct. But if that were an open position, we'd budget for a 2-person
Yeah,
health insurance. So I can tell you without disclosing what individual health insurance programs are, we're ahead of the game.
Hearing aids are here, but they're not working that well, Frank, so.
Well, you didn't hear me say anything anyways, Bill. I can't really, we can't really know what I mentioned. I can't, without disclosing personal information.
Okay. So we have the same bottom line of $170,540. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries. Anything else before we?
No, do you guys have anything for the school board?
Yeah, I do. Is there any update on this stuff on special ed that we were looking for?
We do. I have an email that the Director of Special Ed put together. I'd be more than happy to share it with you.
You could just send it to Andrew.
I can. She just did it today. I believe the superintendent and I both have given it a first review, but it's pretty concise. I can tell you that she and I sat today, just a quick overview, and we talked about the behavioral specialist position, and the contracted services, and it is in this email. When she contracted out, that one behavioral specialist, which cost the district substantial dollars, was for one student. And the behavioral specialist that's on staff now is servicing 15 students. So if you just look at service providing, 15 to 1 students, and if you look at, you look at the total cost for that contracted, and what we're bringing in, it's a substantial savings, because again, we would have had to contract now out additional students than just the one student.
You wouldn't have sent them out of district, but you would have had contract.
We still would have to provide services to them in district, correct?
The total cost, when I met with Devin, the total cost, assuming that we get the cheapest rate that we know that people are available at an hourly rate, would have been $82,500 to $103,125. That does not include travel time or meeting time. That just includes direct service time to students. So the estimate was total cost based on what was in the IEP of $105,000 to $115,000 range, or one full-time para who's a non-LEA member who we can then.
It would be nice if, send that out to.
I just sent it out to Andrew. Yep.
Because I need that to figure out what I want to do in that position. And the other one was on the,
If I can, just for a moment, editorialize on that for a moment, too. Approximately a couple of years ago, and I shared this with the board, the IRS is taking a real hard look at contracted services for public education. And I can tell you that they were in New Hampshire a couple of years ago, and a couple of school districts were found to be in violation of contractor versus employee regulations with the IRS with withholdings. Because it's very simple. If you hire a contractor, that contractor is supposed to come in and just kind of do their own thing with the overall objective which you establish for them. However, in the case of many of the contracts that public schools hire, we direct their every move. We tell them who they're going to be seeing, when they're going to be seeing them, and what our expectations are. And that's really, by the IRS standards, an employee. So you have to be real cautious on that. And I know some agencies out there, they'll call themselves contractors, but they are really extended employees of the district. So we have to be real cautious on that. And that's all I have.
is there anything new?
Red flag of caution.
Anything new on the sped transportation? The clarification
That's also
on
in
that?
her email.
That's in there too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Then, well, I'll wait to see it then. That's
Okay.
fine.
We can distribute it out to the entire budget committee if you wish, in Andrew's absence.
I think that's
I
what we
think
want.
Michelle
yeah.
has all the addresses, and I'll send it to Michelle, and she can send it out to you folks. Yep.
That'd be great.
Okay.
We're going to talk about healthcare at some point in time, but when we vote on district, we'll clearly be discussing it.
I also have an Excel spreadsheet on health care insurance, which I won't go over with you tonight because it is somewhat detailed, but I'll share it with you. I'll have Michelle send that out to you as well. And it gives a breakdown, it gives a 5-year analysis, and it looks at the guaranteed maximum rate versus the actual rate, and it looks at some projections for this year as well. And I'll editorialize real quick on that as well. You're going to see on the gap variation between what the GMR is and what the actual rate. Years ago, it used to be 7, 8, 9%, which no hidden fact of the matter was that was a place to go if you needed to find some money, because there was such a variation in that. 2000, as you probably heard, 2011, 2012, LGC has returned substantial dollars back to school districts and municipalities because they were found to be in violation of having too high a reserve and therefore driving up the cost of insurance to their membership. And you'll see the last couple of years that gap has narrowed substantially down to where it today. There was 2 years ago, it was the GMR was 4% and the actual was 4%. So it's diminishing, and you'll see in the report, and I'll send that out to you, and be more than happy to address it when you address it.
That's only one piece of it though, Frank, as you know.
Well, you can look at the whole thing, Bill.
The other piece is the attrition that you get there, how people come in and come out and change plans, and.
Well, but that's an unknown every year.
I know that, but.
We're still in the process right now.
I know you both have seen the numbers I've seen, which are what you requested, has been
Right.
requested, and what actually gets spent, and you know what the variation is in there.
And you'll see in some years, we do okay, and in other years, this district hasn't done okay.
Actually, there isn't a year where you came in at your number. In most years, you were at least $50,000 to $80,000 overfunded.
I'll show you my analysis.
You know, right.
We can have a
I mean,
debate.
They're right from the.
We can have a debate about it.
Bottom line is, I'm looking at.
It's a
about
wild card with health insurance, because again, we could take one employee that went from the insurance buyer of of $2,000 to a new employee,
Right.
a replacement employee taking health insurance at the family level.
Then you can have one leave and be replaced with
that's a
somebody who
what
doesn't
if.
take it all, which has happened this year.
And I will, for the budget committee, you've heard it before, and I'm sure you'll continue to hear it, open enrollment is July, first year of our fiscal year, first month of our fiscal year. And with Obamacare and PPACR coming into play and Cadillac, and there's a lot going on in the health insurance arena
Which is
that,
why I'd be interested in what you feel is a reasonable reduction in what you've asked for.
reduction.
Yes.
Increase.
Pardon?
Increase.
Round down.
I'll
Round down, yeah, 2.5.
You have requested, throw a number out, $2 million of total health care costs. And all I'm saying is if I look at that, what you requested, and traditionally what you wind up spending, if you spend 95%, I'm surprised.
But again, you have to look at the variation is shrinking on the trend.
Yeah, I agree.
agree with that,
And I
because
looked
you
at the
both see it.
variation, and I shrunk it also, and I came up with $50,000.
I'm gonna show you that.
Less than what you've been requesting in the budget, so, just to set the stage for you when we do discuss it.
Thanks, you set the stage a couple of months ago, Bill, but when we had that conversation when I first got here.
Now, where does that unspent revenue go, or that money?
It's not unspent revenue.
It's unspent, that will go back.
General fund,
Normally-
general-
Normally that money is what is,
It goes in
End
the
of year
fund,
funds.
goes in the fund balance.
Yeah.
And if you look at
It can either go in the fund balance, or, as you know, it's bottom line budget. The school board has within their authority to make reallocation of underspent, over appropriated
That-
accounts, and that's historically been for every school district in every part of the country.
That-
We'll do that. They'll shift funds around when they get towards the mid to late fiscal year.
Absolutely true, and when I say it goes to fund balance, I can look back at all of the year-end analysis of the budgets year after year after year, and it will show up as we put $50,000 in the fund balance from healthcare and so forth, so it doesn't necessarily get spent for that, for other purposes.
I think it's a worthy conversation, and the question of, for example, the $5,000 reduction, for a single line item for a pump, if we'd have to do that in 10 different places, right, makes not nearly as much sense as having a $40,000 or $50,000 contingency, and then we can say, what do we really expect to happen? And I think we've moved forward in a lot of budgets in that way of saying, well, just in case, and we said, well, take away the just in case, build that reserve, and get a tighter line. And at this point in time, quite honestly, the only place that if we had I'm even going to say a $20,000 expenditure out of the blue, the only place left that is really budgeted where we might be able to go there would be salary and benefits. Now, typically, we have had money in there, but the question becomes, if you're wrong on salary and benefits, then, and you know what I mean, then it becomes problematic.
Yeah, and then my only comeback on that is that for most years, we in fact have made some global reductions in both salaries and benefits. And I can't recall a year where we had a problem with the budget. Okay. That's why I would hope we could come to a nice, easy, nice number that doesn't cause a lot of gnashing of teeth in here.
I'd like to think that between last year's budget process and this one, which will be the 14-15 budget, we've actually, one of our goals really has been to get the budget number in as many areas as we can to reflect what we really think the cost would be to do the work that needs to be done with no extra.
Yeah, which is
Quite
why you
honestly.
see me focusing on specific areas where traditionally we have overfunded. And I'll probably leave attrition alone this year.
I mean, Steve Steve Martin, the former BA, used to say that he managed to a $200,000, not surplus, but started the year, hoping and expecting that there's at least $200,000 above demand to allow for turnover in staff and the salaries up and down. Now, that's 1% of the annual budget, which isn't a whole lot of contingency. So, but that's a really good conversation to have, about how do you bring forward the best budget that covers you in the case of an unforeseen emergency, and at the same time, identifies what your strategic areas are, so you're spending the money where you should be spending them, without needlessly putting money into accounts just because something may happen. And I think we've had some good conversations about that both last year and this.
Yep, we did. I mean, the only time we blindsided you was with $150,000, and I don't want to see that happen again this year.
I have no memory of that.
I do.
That hit so hard it knocked it out, huh? Okay. Any other thing for the schools? Anything else?
Yeah. Revenue. I thought that was going to be discussed at the school board last night.
We got very,
Didn't get into it?
we got it, we discussed it, we didn't believe it, we're moving on. We think we have about $117,000 of less revenue from the state in education aid, is where we believe we stand right now. We're gonna have less in grants, and there was less in,
You're talking about revenue?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
I had thought that we were going to get your revenue numbers.
The board got the revenue numbers, and it was preliminary. There's still some, we need to get some confirmation on the school building aid,
Yeah.
which could possibly be lowered due to the fact that the bond's being reduced.
But, here's my problem. I don't want to vote on a
And
bottom line
I would-
school budget
Yeah.
until I've seen the revenues and I understand what the tax impact is. And we understand what the proposed, we think the valuation will be, and I got to see some revenue numbers that you think are realistic. I mean, we should have had them by now, to be blunt.
We're still, the number that we have for federal grants is a very soft number. I think if we gave you what we had now, it would show a much more significant reduction than what we actually will. And I believe by next Tuesday, we'll have that number as well. So,
Possibly, waiting on others to provide information. I'm hoping to have it.
I mean, at
Really
this
should
point.
strive to get that.
This point,
right now, the revenue projection numbers we had yesterday as an estimate was about $500,000 less. So, but we have, part of that is grant fund money, part of that was building aid money, and the cost for our mortgage here on this school is going down, so that's going to go down, but,
Yeah.
the correlation is not a dollar for dollar there, but the one number that was a difference was the $117,000 that we believe that we will have in student aid. That number seemed to be
that's a pretty
fixed. So we know right now where we're at is $117,000
and
in revenue.
And that now you probably know that the new law caps the amount of adequacy aid that you can lose or gain at 5%. We started last year, I think Steve and I were very cautious, as is my nature, and we costed out worst-case scenario, and the Budget Committee basically thought that that was a little bit of overkill, and I think we came back with 98.5% of the prior year. That's just about exactly what we hit this year. Last year, from September on, we had some uptick across the fall, and because of that pickup of students, we kind of hit the 98.5. We're not getting that this year, so I believe we budgeted at 98%.
Correct.
Of which I think is, I mean, it's not an aggressive number, but it's the number that we think that is most likely to actually be at. So that's where we are on that, and that equates to that loss of 117. I think we'll get back, by the time we get it all from all sources, about another 200,000 on what's there. So bottom line is probably going to be in the $300,000 range, but depending on the other numbers that come in, it could be 280 to 320-ish. Does that sound about right, Frank? So that's where we are on that piece.
My bottom line is, I think that all of us ought to know what the tax impact is of this proposed operating budget, because we're gonna be discussing warrant articles subsequently. And quite frankly, if the tax impact of this operating budget is so large, that will influence how I would vote on a warrant article. So, that's why I've been pushing for this.
What are we anticipating for schedule? Voting on next Tuesday would be
I think that's the last.
special education and district-wide?
Our last vote is on the 17th, which is
Next Tuesday?
next Tuesday, yeah. And
Oh, we don't do
that's
next
special
week.
ed and district-wide.
Okay.
We have a meeting penciled in for the 19th if we absolutely need it, but it was in real light pencil.
And typically, when we finished up with special ed and district-wide, we'll have done the whole budget, and we should have a bottom line. Well, normally, we would vote the bottom line that night. No, I'm just expressing my opinion, not necessarily the committee's opinion.
So we are getting a little late in the year for getting the revenue numbers, I agree.
We'll be on that. Conversely, we'd like it to be a number you feel comfortable with, you know.
And that's, so if it, today, Thursday? We'll have a,
Why does the superintendent keep looking at me?
well,
We're all looking at you, Frank.
Well, again, these are not my numbers, I just want to be real clear.
Yeah.
I make recommendations to the board must accept my revenue projections. So I think the board asked that I bring them back next Wednesday with the
We
additional
didn't
information.
feel the numbers
so-
were accurate,
Yeah.
and, we felt, we felt the Argosy aid number was accurate, but there were 4 of the lines that we felt totally uncomfortable with.
It's not that
And
they're
then-
inaccurate, I just want to be clear of that.
Yeah.
We need some definition from DOE, for instance, on the school building aid. Those reports aren't out yet. School building aid is being reduced as a result of the bond reduction. So the inaccurate number, it's not inaccurate, it's a number that I provided to the board, which was reflective of the reduction of the bond. Again, before I put that forward as a hard number to the board, I need some sort of confirmation with DOE, whether or not they're prepared to give it to us at this point. There was a question about the numbers that were put out for the federal grant, which won't impact the operating budget. It'll impact, obviously, the grant, Fund 22. And then the other was the projection, which I think is a pretty solid number on the 2% reduction on the adequacy grant, based on what we're seeing for the average daily membership for students. So I think the only one really is the school building aid, and then we'll have to tweak the federal grant. But the one that won't necessarily impact you folks to determine what the tax impact is on it.
did you want to have the self-funded conversation? I'm just wondering if it's anticipated that there'll be only one more meeting for us, and we won't be able to have the revenue projections until after the board meeting on Wednesday. Does the budget committee want to move it, not meet Tuesday, and do everything on Thursday?
I can't do that.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I was just gonna say, I know Andrew's not here until the 19th, if we have a meeting on the 19th. He's out till the 18th. That's really
He
getting
wanted to
close
be back to
to
talk about
Christmas
the
holiday for
272 and the
everyone.
580 lines, too.
Yeah, 19's okay with me. We have to go that way.
I'll be
Bill's
here.
rationale makes perfect sense to me. You want to be able to see the whole package and be able to have a conversation about, if and how much a bottom line reduction might be. But
Cindy, you said that you noted.
Yeah, I'm not available the 19th. But
I can be
if-
here.
If I'm the only one, that's fine.
Dan? John and John?
Oh, I'll be here.
So what are we
I
saying?
mean,
Chris will be
my
here
my
around-
recommendation
Andrew
is
will
that
be.
you meet on the 17th, because there is enough things coming out of our meeting on the
That's
18th
gonna be my question.
that you will probably not want to be here till 10 or 11 on the 19th. But we have warrant articles, if we've done that, we would hope to be able to present those to you on the 19th. We should be able to have revenue. We would like to present our default budget. We did get numbers on that. We had questions that we've asked the BA to go back and get answers for, but we have all those things. So I would imagine that Derek is going to have the board voting and answering those things next week.
Okay.
I would hope.
So we'll stay on schedule for the 17th with the district-wide and hold the bottom line off until the 19th?
And that's fine. I mean, I believe that Andrew was very adamant, and I think the superintendent and myself, we sort of knew we were going to have a conversation with Andrew or with the budget committee about those two lines. And if he would be here on the 19th, we would much rather address that topic with him in here. And while I believe all of you are more than efficient to move his motion forward, I think his emails to us about that would, that he's done a little bit of homework that I think he would like to present to us, so.
Last thing. We did have a long drawn-out conversation about funding. Give me the right word.
Self-funding?
Self-funding.
Self-funding, thank you. And my position was, what do you want to do? I mean, we understand the mechanism of revenue versus the appropriation, but if you got an issue about how it's being actually booked, and as a result, overstating from the taxpayer point of view, do you want to make any changes in it? No.
The school board discussed that last night.
We have had some discussion, and I think, Mr. York, the general consensus was if it's technically doable while being, you know.
We're not going to adjust the operating budget in any way down on those numbers.
Okay, that's fine.
The board was pretty adamant about that.
Yeah.
But we are adamant about the fact that we're not providing you with the information you needed to reflect. And I think as they did a little bit of homework in that process before our meeting yesterday in the SAU, what they found was a process in which the final steps of applying these expenses weren't happening. I mean, basically what happens is an invoice needs to be paid, a PO comes, and revenue comes into the district, and the district accepts the revenue, deposits it, and then cuts the PO and pays the invoice. Somewhere along the process, something wasn't being coded correctly. And we believe that process will be very looked at strongly and micromanaged to the point that number is reflected correctly. Because some of the board members had questions that they felt that maybe expenses were being captured in standard operating line items. Their argument was they did not believe it was, but at the same time, our budget didn't show where the expenses were. So I can't answer that question.
Had to show up somewhere, but.
End of the day, you should be able, you have this column of revenue and you have this column of expenses, and this way it should wash out to zero, right? Except for what you returned.
And we've had a small but significant amount of unexpended funds in self-funded, and that should not happen. Either we're not billing. With athletics, for example, the pattern is that if it's a self-funded sport, they cost it out. We get a check before the season starts for 50%, and then at the end of the season, they're billed for the remainder of the actual. So if the budget was 15,000 and it's actually 16, we get 7,500 up front, and then bill for 8.5 because they expended more than they had expected. Or if they only expended 14,000, we bill for 6,500. Either way, there should be virtually no monies left over.
But that would create, in your synopsis, $1,000 worth of
Unexpended.
operating dollars not spent. because we would have been in the budget as a $15,000
Well,
expense.
the problem that you've got now, though, is that you are appropriating $20,000, and you are showing in the operating budget $5,000 expenses against that $20,000 being expended. The remaining $15,000 shows up as unexpended operating funds and goes into your fund balance that way. That's what's happening today.
No, it's not.
For sure it
Well,
is.
it's not, because the
No, it's not.
revenue didn't come in.
Yes, it
Revenue
is.
wouldn't be taken in to offset that, and when you adjust at the end of the year, you're only recognizing $5,000.
Your warrant article 1 appropriated the $20,000.
And the revenue appropriated $20,000.
Makes no difference whether it appropriated it or not. The fact is, it's appropriated as part of your total appropriation, and when you finally,
But the taxpayers aren't paying it because the revenue came from a different source.
if it's, that's, don't disagree with that, John. But in the bottom line is, when you do your balance of what your total appropriation, if it's a $20 million budget, which I mean, $20,000 budget number, and what you show in your expenditure report is $10,000, you show that $10,000 as unexpended fund balance. That's what happens, and that is exactly what's been going on. I mean, just look at your object codes. You'll see it right there. It's a big number than that. That's all I'm saying.
And I don't disagree with that.
And I don't disagree, you may have gotten the revenue in to cover that full $20,000, but it's not being booked against the expenditures the way it's supposed to be. And my only point was, because of that, we once again, I'm sure, when we put the budget together, we'll be showing a self-funded, I think it was, increase was $20,000 more, almost $100,000 in self-funded, I think, in this proposed budget.
93.
No, okay, 93,000. And that was an increase over last year. So you're gonna go to the voters and say, okay, the total operating budget, including self-funded, has gone from this number to that number, when you don't necessarily have to do that if you're not gonna actually book it that way. And that was my only point.
Well, but in arguing your point, and I truly understand what you're saying.
I was trying to help you.
No, but see, the key is if we remove it, see, if it's not in our operating budget, we can't cut a PO out of our, we can't cut a PO for it. We cannot pay somebody unless it's in our operating budget. So that's why it's there.
I didn't
But we
suggest that,
should
John.
we should be accurately tracking that number, so that at the end of the year, there are no dollars left in those numbers. There's expenses against every one of them, and then your explanation will not occur, because there'll be $20,000 in budgeted thing and $20,000 in expenditures,
Yeah.
which is occurring, it's just not occurring correctly.
I wasn't suggesting that you cut the self-funded number per se. I was suggesting you treat it like we have treated healthcare in the past, with a negative number, and the way we treated co-curriculum with a negative number. That's all I was suggesting. And the budget fully shows what you think you can spend. So you haven't said it's not there, but you don't expect to see the appropriation be spent. That was all I'm saying. And again, it was just to put you guys in a better position in presenting your budget and presenting the contract. So I wasn't proposing to make any changes.
I will be glad to bring that back up on Wednesday and see where we go. Okay? Anything else?
Round down.
Round down?
I think your
Think
dog's
about
waiting in the hall.
that.
Yes, I saw that.
Thank you, Mr. York.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Feed us some, email some, everything that you're still looking for. Some of those emails I forwarded to Deb, some I may have missed, so
Oh, really?
I did it. So if you can kind of summarize on me,
Sometimes more efficient.
check with Frank, make sure we follow up
Yeah,
on those.
there really isn't a heck of
What are
a
those,
lot.
sunflower
It
seeds?
really is. better understand the sped transportation.
That's healthy stuff.
I want to borrow one of
I
those
sent
cherry
that
cough drops.
information to her, and right, she basically came back saying, oh, the school board already reduced to
Uh-huh.
66,000 and whatever. I'm
You
like,
can come and take as many as you like.
You wanted that.
Because I'm hanging on the
Take
edge.
as many as you need.
How you doing?
Might be a long night, you never know.
Good?
Well, we could do that. I hope not. And, we'll offer
Many
that up.
As many as you like.
Oh, hanging on. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, let's, 10 minutes to 9. We're gonna jump back into this.
We got a Denver and a San Diego
Cochran,
fan up there
Mr. Spencer.
talking about
We're
today's
gonna-
game.
Ready to go to town.
I'm already very inefficient at running this meeting. I can't
You're doing fine, you're doing
I can't
fine.
take any risk on it going
We're
past
negotiating a
midnight.
$500,000 cut, but you guys don't want to talk to him, that's fine.
Where were those engineering reports speak? Would Kevin be able to access it?
The school should have them, and some of them are online.
I have a whole file. Right behind my desk. It's the whole bottom thing of my bookcase.
Okay, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you,
Would
Dr.
like somebody in
Cochran.
here?
Thank you, folks. Much appreciated.
Okay, seeing that we've concluded with school business, like the discussion, but very beneficial. Move on to town business, and one of the agenda items we'd added was revoting the town budget. So, offer it up in two ways. We can vote half of it tonight, half of it Tuesday night?
We'll see how fast we go through.
What I would recommend doing would be somebody making a motion to reopen all of
That was my intent.
the accounts that we've already voted on.
Yep, that was my intent.
And then, once we get the opening, then we can go through by each account, and somebody can move a new number if they want to, or if they don't want to.
Well, I think we're gonna reopen each account one by one.
Well, I would
Reopen
vote to
it all.
reopen the entire,
Okay.
just to make one motion, otherwise you're gonna have multiple motions for each account.
Okay.
Does that make sense? or not?
That does make sense.
Yeah.
I'm okay, but I have a question about, since there were some changes here, and we don't know the rationale behind them, we could ask questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I'm
yeah.
gonna go through each one, and you're gonna vote each one, you're gonna vote each account like you did before. If there's questions, at that point, I can fill them.
Somebody's gonna make a motion or not make a motion on it.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve our new requested, with maybe up or down.
And then we could
Okay,
ask
second.
questions without making a motion.
There'll be a motion in a second, then you'll ask your
And
question.
discussion.
Well, there'll be a motion in a second to open it.
We're making
No.
a motion in a second to open the whole budget.
Yep.
And
The
that'll
whole
be done,
thing.
And then we're just
yeah.
gonna walk through each one, and you guys
Then
can.
we'll do each individual.
But my question is this, if we're in the voting stage, which means we have to make a motion to either cut or add in order to ask a question, right?
No, John is gonna,
Open the whole
as
budget.
I understand, now, he's gonna go in when we get to executive, and he's gonna move this new number, should be,
Okay.
whatever his new number is.
Okay.
Okay, and then, if it doesn't get seconded, then we don't vote on it. If it gets seconded, then somebody can say, I'd like to amend that motion to this, or.
Okay, I understand that's the way it needs to get done, but my question is this, because there was changes made, when a budget is presented to us, we have the opportunity to ask questions of the Board of Selectmen. How did you
can
come?
ask those same questions after it's been
Yeah.
seconded, yes.
That's the whole thing.
But what if I don't plan on, what if I want to have a question and I don't plan on either raising or lowering that line, but I have a question in order to determine if I want to raise or lower?
You can
because-
still do that, because John, it's going to be motioned and seconded to open it, and at that
Okay.
point, you can discuss it.
Got it. Okay, that's my question, because we haven't had the opportunity like the first
We've
time.
done this last year, it worked, I think it worked fairly well last year.
Okay, no, that's fine, I just want to clarify. That's fine, because I have some questions, and I don't know, I need an answer first before I decide to do anything, if I do anything at all. Okay.
So, I guess I'll start by, well, actually, I have an update first before I open the budget, so if you're okay with that. In the last couple of meetings, there's been discussions around, we survived on a default budget, what did we not do, what we do, those kind of things. I wanted to share some things with you. I also wanted to also share with you some of the major changes in this year's budget and what the drivers were. And it's only a few of those. But because of the result of the default budget, there are things that we weren't able to do, things that we we're able to get better insight after being a quarter into our budget year as it was anyway. First up was our town administrator deferred his contractually obligated increase. He deferred it by, I want to say, 5 months. So we had savings in this year's budget because of that. We reduced some disposal services at the town incinerator. We deferred maintenance at the fire department and the exterior painting and some other repairs. We reduced our ammunition stockpile. We weren't able to keep it at the levels we usually keep it at. We lowered it down a little bit for this year. We had fewer part-time officer hours. We cut those back. We did other coverages and so on. We also were able to capture, because our full-time officer came on late, we captured some savings there because it wasn't a full year of salary, even though it was in the budget. We reduced our maintenance at the town hall. We cut back the hours on our maintenance crews. We lowered the town report costs, right? So as you know, we took action to change the behavior and how we did it. We did all that last year too. So some of those changes in this year's budget reflect the things we already did this year to kind of reduce it. So some other key contributors to why we're able to successfully run the town at the budget we had. In February, we had a snowstorm. It cost us over $32,000 to keep the town clear that year, or during that snowstorm. We received back in reimbursements $26,000 from FEMA because of the event. That was able to actually give us a buffer in our highway department to actually continue this year. So if that didn't have occurred, we probably would have been in a deficit. We would have been in trouble, tight times this year, potentially. We have that money, we're now in a safe position. We've secured better salt rates, right? We deferred some tire purchases. We did a bunch of things we deferred that were probably regular maintenance we would have typically done in a good year, but let's stretch it a little longer. So the point being is we did a lot of that. We also renegotiated our legal services at almost a $20,000 a year savings. That's represented in this year's budget also. So there are things we did to kind of live within the means that we were given by the voters, and a lot of the things we felt that were something we can carry forward are represented in the budget we presented this year.
I have a question.
Sure.
Have you, with all of that, have you figured out dollar amount that has to be made up? Now, some of it you say maintenance, the cleaning of the town hall, so I don't know if that's just like cleaning, that it's lost, so it's lost, and you don't need to make it up, but if there's a maintenance item that you defer that has to get done, obviously you have to add that, and certain things that you didn't do but can't be recaptured, so it's not a real dollar amount. So after, and then like the storm, you got a bunch of money back, so that worked out in favor. You negotiated lower salt, so that added money. So if you do the math and add the additions in of a salt savings, that's an addition, minus, do a plus and a minus, what's left over, a dollar amount that the real dollar amount of what couldn't get done. Do you have that number?
I'm not sure I even understand the question, sorry. I mean, I'm looking at things either because deferred or changes in programs on how we did it. The rough numbers that I'm seeing are roughly around $60,000 in savings that we implemented this year to live within the budget. Now, if you're asking the question, what do I got to now put in this budget to make up what we didn't do last year, it's represented in the budget already.
Okay.
So the budget already see. Again, like I said, anything that was a one-time saving we could have done to keep within the means, and we could carry it forward, we carried it forward. If it was something we needed to pick back up again, it's back in there as a regular budget.
Well, yeah, that answers my question, because also my other question the other day was, so out of the end-of-year funds that's left over, I had to simply ask the question, since you said there's stuff we didn't get done, why wouldn't you use the end-of-year money to get the stuff?
And we are. And as you said, like, we're pulling some of the programs in 2014 into 2013 if we can with those end-of-the-year
So
funds.
then in reality, we're all even. There's nothing to make up. So basically, you guys may do what you had.
I would say, are we even? I would say we're not even. We're not flat in the sense of even. We have some things we got to catch back up. Like we did stop some protective gear replacement. We got to get those things replaced. You know, we delayed it. All we're doing is delaying the inevitable event to happen. With regards to the budget request we made this year, based on the Board of Selectmen's recommendations and what we forwarded to the Budget Committee for approval, these were changes. These were increases that somewhat are out of our control, right? The costs are either shifted down to us or part of already agreed upon programs and so on. That totaled $158,000 to the bottom line of the default budget that needed to go back into the budget. That represented wages at $38,000, Health and dental increases to 45,000. The hydrant increase for that year is 35,000, 34 and change. Retirement taxes is 35,000. Our dispatch contract with the sheriff's is $1,300. Assessing contract was $2,800, you know, and then again, vehicle mailing, because the mail rates went up, $1,400. So those are just costs that we have to consume because they're either required or there's no control there for us.
Has the Board of Selectmen considered changing any of the health plans to
We have.
lower the
If you've been
cost?
watching, our meetings, we're locked in until the middle of next year, and so we are looking at other ways to lower the costs. Some of it's
Like
more
higher
sharing.
deductibles?
Correct.
Because just, I guess from my point of view, I have trouble with the out of control comment, because just about everything is in your control.
Well, these are contractual agreements we have right now that we
Right.
can't break.
And some that you just said expire mid-next year, and then other things, so it's just a philosophical difference, and it's okay, we both have different opinions, but I just want them both to be known, that they're not really out of control, they're in control based upon decisions that were made.
If you accept the theory that the board has been asked to keep our services level and our town done the way we've been doing it, these are the cost or increases that were out of our control. If the town came back and said, we want you to reduce a person, or lay off a firefighter, or whatever, that's a different aspect, because the biggest problems we have are in wages and benefits.
I agree with you, and in all fairness, the town was never given or hasn't recently been given the opportunity to come to you and tell you that, so.
The town has an opportunity every Monday we meet to come in and tell us they want to see something different. The town has an opportunity at deliberative to come in and express their concerns around whatever subject they want to talk about. So I think the town has given a lot of ample time to do it. The town has not come forward with new positions and all that because we realize we want to live within our means. We're trying to keep the service levels that we are providing today at a level where people feel what we feel that people feel is adequate.
And not to belabor the point, but there's a counterpoint. On the same token, all the years, the town has the opportunity to come to you also during the meetings and say, I want more, and they don't. I don't hire a new position, they don't. So the Board of Selectmen takes the initiative to go to the town and say, do you want more? But they don't go to the town to say, hey, look, do you want less? So again, I just want
Fair comment.
balance for my thing. So my point is, it is in the control, in the conversations we're having here too, remember the voters created a budget committee to second guess and ask these questions. So in a way, we are their representatives, and the Board of Selectmen are the representatives too. So from my point of view, if the town did want to truly lower the costs or lower services, they could ask the town to lower them, just like they asked the town to increase them. Okay.
Bill?
I'd like to move that we reopen all the
I wasn't done yet,
operating
Bill.
budgets that the budget committee has approved.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second to reopen all the town budget line items from 4130.10 to 4723.10. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of reopening the budget line items as indicated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay.
Okay, so first, 4130.10 executive. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $108,204.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion?
So, only changes here is health and dental, as we gave you all a head up earlier in the year, so not much we can discuss there.
Further discussion? John? Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor of the new bottom line budget, new bottom line number for 4130.10 executive, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained. Carries.
Is that 610?
Yep.
Okay, for account 4130.30 town meeting, I'd like to move a new bottom line of $8,533.
Second.
Motion and a second.
So the adjustments were basically actual contracts and costs that we got back in estimates. So it looks like the cost of the programming of the OptiTech, which is the voting machine, that went down a little bit, and then the maintenance went up a little bit. So sort of offsets each other.
All those in favor of the new bottom line of $8,533 for 4130.30 town meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries. John?
Yep, 4140.10, town clerk. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $94,974.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion?
Obviously, health and benefits is one change. The other change is, as you probably heard in our presentation originally, we were going to lose the vendor who was processing our tax bills and so on. This is a new vendor in the negotiated rate based on the postage and stuff we can get into. So it's a contracted rate now.
Any further discussion? Hear none. All in favor of the new bottom line for 4140.10 of $94,974, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained.
Okay, 4150.10, accounting. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $198,829.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion?
Again, insurance, actual costs, adjustments.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the new bottom line for 4150.10, accounting of $198,829, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. John?
Okay, 4150.20, information technology. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $61,104.
Wait a second, is that on your list?
So biggest thing here, I think we mentioned it when we were going through the process, when we started redoing our accounting system, we had some ideas about merging some lines together into one account. This represents that action. The additions are negated out of the other accounts, so we moved all data, telephone bills, all into this common account because they're actually coming across in one bill anyway.
And you kept the same numbers we had voted on before, you just
Correct.
moved them over.
Yeah, it just should have been an easy math program. And we are hoping that as we continue with this contract, the rates will still go down because we're still getting some benefits of the collab, but this is what we believe the estimated rates are going to be.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I got the account number here. It is.
It's 4150.20 and 61,104.
All those in favor for the new bottom line of $61,104,
Aye.
please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I think I went a little bit out of order here. I think I skipped
Yep, you-
accounting, didn't I? No, I
But
did.
you're
I
doing
mean,
it good.
I had it all laid out,
The way
ready
the
to go.
pages are, so.
Oh, it's because that's how I printed it, but the summary sheet's differently. I think
Yeah,
it's
it
sorted
is.
by the account number. All right, so I'll keep on going where the pages are, okay? All right, 4150, because I'm using the live sheet. 4150.40 tax collection. New bottom line of $92,664.
Second.
A motion and a second?
Again, it's the health and benefits actuals and then the actual software contract costs.
All those in favor of the new bottom line number of 92664 for 4150.40 tax collection, say aye.
Aye.
John?
Okay, 4150.10 assessing, like to move the new bottom line of, oops, hang on. 4152.10 assessing, move the bottom line of $49,703.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Again, that's the actual cost of the software maintenance and software for the year.
I'll make sure I stay on the same lines, folks. All those in favor of new bottom line number, I'm sorry, further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the new bottom line of 49,703, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay. 4153 legal. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $20,400.
Second.
We have a motion and a second?
This represents, as I said earlier, this renegotiated legal services and a better estimate of what hours we use monthly.
Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of new bottom line of $20,400 for legal expenses, line, account number 4153, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Now,
John?
the next account I have is one that you guys haven't voted on
Voted
yet.
on yet.
Do you want to do that?
Technically, we're out of order, but I don't mind voting on it if you want to do that. The chairman wants to do it that way.
You okay with voting it?
Um,
It's,
We reopened what we voted on, and we're running through.
it's true, we can hold it to the last, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine, so we'll move to,
What's that account number going to be, John?
the next one's gonna be 4191.10, planning. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $54,701.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion?
Again, the only adjustments is health and dental.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 4191.30, zoning board. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $666.
Second.
That is a reduction, it's basically, we reduced our books for the planning board, or for the planning books.
All those in favor of new bottom line budget for zoning board, 4191.30 to $666, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained.
All right, moving, next one is 4194.10, general government buildings. I'd like to move the new bottom line of $107,089.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, discussion?
Costs were moved out of this to the IT, the prison program was reduced a little bit, and then we also combined all of our fuel costs. So all the fuel lines for regular gas have been moved to the gas station we have at the highway department. It's going to be paid and billed out of this line. So the calculations are based on the federal rate. So we use the federal cost, the $3 and whatever, that's the federal guidelines. And our fuel gallons are based on our usage and history.
All those in favor of the new bottom line, or, I'm sorry, further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the new bottom line for general government buildings of 4194.10 of $107,089, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next will be 4195 cemeteries. Oh, we have,
Change. No.
yeah, there's no change, sorry. I didn't see the X beside my.
Did we open it? Oh, we only opened the ones we didn't.
No, no.
Well,
change.
but there's no change, so there's no reason to revote it. We didn't vote on town insurance yet, so no change on 4197. Let's see, the next change one will be the police department, 4210.
Well, you
No,
did
I got
change
town
41.
insurance. There's the next one coming up.
We haven't voted on it yet.
Ah,
This board hasn't voted on it yet, I don't believe.
okay, right.
Yeah.
Advertising?
There was, it does show a
Did
change.
you change here?
There is a change
Yeah,
there.
that's one where I think you guys are wondering what to do with the dues, New Hampshire Municipal Association.
Our board has not voted on it yet. We
Okay.
may come back. There's a healthy debate around the NMHA membership, so we've deferred any action on this line at this point.
Okay.
So whatever you guys approve is what we're going with at this point.
Okay, so that line is,
Yeah, so 4197, we're gonna defer till another meeting. 4210.10. Oh, so, yeah, 4210.10.
John, I just want to make sure that we have the right number. So we're going to go with the budget committee's number of 13,375?
That's the approved budget at this point. The Board of Selectmen have taken no action on that yet.
That's fine.
Next line is 4210.10, Police Administration. I'd like to move the new bottom line of, hold it, gotta get to the bottom. Excuse me. $1,354,513.
Second?
A motion and a second, discussion?
I'd like to amend that to $1,347,513.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion?
What I removed are the two items that the Budget Committee had already discussed and removed, which was $5,000 out of professional development training and $2,000 out of the reduced repairs. We had that discussion. I see no reason to reopen those two issues.
I would just call your attention to, we actually lowered the part-time office specials,
That's
lower than what you...
irrelevant. That's irrelevant
Okay.
to these particular items.
You also said there was a surplus.
Did I say there was surplus where? I never said there was surplus in PD.
Well,
This goes back to the discussion we had before. The board believes that what we asked for is what's appropriate for the department. There's disagreement, but we would try to get to a number where it's actually, we got to a number that's less than the Budget Committee's recommendation going forward. So basically, by us reopening it, getting lower, the Budget Committee is still penalizing the board. And the board is trying to live within what the Budget Committee's reference was, or what they recommended. It was higher, we came in lower. So I hate to go back again and say, you know what, we just got slapped for lowering it even lower, because we still want to have a program we feel is a value there.
but in all fairness, you came back with other budgets that were higher because of legitimate costs, so health insurance goes
But I
up.
will also tell you,
There's a
Chris,
cost that-
bottom line to what you're going to us for recommend is also lower. So
I know, but are we doing bottom line or are we doing lines? If we want to do bottom line, I'm happy we
what
can
I'm,
skip
what
all
I'm
the
trying to get to,
detail.
when you look at the police department as a whole, there's a bunch of things we need to do.
Right.
We heard the message that the police department was too high, but we still felt there were there are priorities in the budget that we still felt were there. So instead of just saying, we'll leave the number alone, we'll keep your number, and we'll take it what it was, and then we can rebalance it after everything's elected, we said, after things have been voted on, we said, you know what, let's, full transparency, we still believe the training is important, we're putting it back in there, but we just reduced the police part-timers lower, we lowered some of our overtime rates to become more in line what we think is more appropriately, achieving a lower bottom line for that department. Instead of the board, this committee going, great job, not good enough, we're gonna still lower it down even more. But if we didn't reopen it, we wouldn't have this problem.
You're assuming that the reason the Budget Committee cut the training by 5,000 and the repairs by 2,000 was because we just wanted to do an arbitrary cut. That wasn't the
You
case
didn't
at
do
all.
it.
That was not the case at all. We looked at the training and said, it looks out of whack, doesn't make sense, don't think you can do it. And that's why we made that cut in it. And the same thing was true on the repairs. I just don't want to re-argue issues that have already been settled unless there's been something that changed why we made our original decision.
Okay.
I think what John's saying is they're trying to be transparent and say, you know what, we disagree with the formula that you used to come to that, so we've taken cuts other
understand that.
places to try to save.
That's the same argument the school made on the part-timer at GMS. I mean, that we cut money here and therefore we...
No,
It's-
You're talking about
that's
people,
very
though. You're
different. That's very
It's
different.
the same type of argument.
It's not the same argument, Bill. The professionals who run that department believe this training is required and needs to happen, and they're putting the commitment to get it done. You're saying you don't agree with them. I don't know if you're police trained, I know I'm
Saying the
not.
committee didn't agree with it, not me.
The committee didn't agree with them because they agreed with the discussion at that time. But at the end of the day, the police department said, this is still a good priority for us, we need to get this done. We're going to come in under so we can get these other programs a challenge, because the goal was, let's try to get as flat as we can and still be able to achieve
We're
something.
not saying they can't do it, that's the thing, it's just the funding, so.
Can we vote on this, Mr. Chairman? I think we know it.
What was the change again, Bill? What was the bottom line?
The number was $1,347,513.
So
Reduction of $7,000.
All those in favor of the amendment to $1,347,513 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion,
4-4, right?
No, there's
No,
not
it's
four
four.
members yet.
sounds like 3-4.
4-3.
1, 2, 3. You said you were
I voted
positive?
against lowering. I voted.
Show of hands.
Show of
I
hands.
thought I heard you.
All those in
your
favor of
eyes
the
were-
amendment,
All in
say
favor
aye.
of the amendment.
All those opposed.
So it fails.
Amendment fails. So we're back to the original bottom line number of
1,354,513.
three. Okay. Any further discussion or other amendments?
Yeah, I would just like to say that, 6 years living in this town, taxes have never stayed level or gone down. They always go up, and that's the reason I ran for this position. So,
Dan, I would just encourage you to look at the town side and how we operate, and say, divorce the issue.
and that's why I'm here, John, and
No, I know, and
next
I-
year I'm gonna have something to look back to and really,
The town taxes, the town in the last one went down. Yes, it's only 3 cents. We're still trying to target to go down, but, there are costs that are there, and we're continuing to try to make up that difference any way we can. But the town's a business. We have to run. And I also need to train. I need to put gas in the cars. I need to have cars that run. There's a lot of those costs, and I
think we're giving that, but like I said, next year I have something to fall
Yep.
back on now, and
And so we're ready to vote on the,
next.
I have a question. So how did you reduce the special officers account?
So we had one officer leave. He got hired as a full-timer someplace else. We're not planning on the problem is there's no part-timers lined up to line up. If we get one, we'll figure out how to make it. As you know, the whole factor is it's labor hours in general, right?
Right.
So
You want it at 72,000, what the number is you want?
I think we went down, yeah, let me just go back to that number here.
Was it 72?
75.
75?
Yeah, you reduced it to 79, we went to 75, we felt that was more appropriate based on what we have and what we're gonna have for recovery.
Sounds like my original number that I proposed.
I'm okay with it, Bill.
No,
And you're right, we could have left it at 79 and not did anything with it, we agreed with you, we even went lower.
Now, on the flip side, if you needed this officer, why are you not replacing and hiring?
It's not that we're not replacing it, we're looking for
It's a
part-timers, we just don't, it's a special part-timer, and at the end of the day, they're not lining up to get hired, right? If we find one, we'll certainly bring them on, because, again, the way that is, it's assignments, I use it, it's a bucket of money to pay for those activities, but